G'day and welcome to Hooked on Sport, South Australia's local sports podcast. It's the 10th of December and time to check in with Ben Hook to see what's caught his eye this week. G'day, Hookie.
Yeah, good morning, Wallace. I've got to be honest with you, mate. It's been a massive weekend and I wasn't too upset to have Monday off. And here we are, fresh, ready to go on a Tuesday morning.
Yes, I did see you working at the cricket, and I take my hat off to you. You're managing roomfuls of 300 people or more.
Can I ask you a question? What's the most useless thing in the world?
Day 4 and 5 of a test match?
Tickets to day 4 of the test match. A mate of mine, Colin Rouston, shared me that. What I better just attribute it. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that test is over inside the halfway point of what's a full match. However, it just felt like it was played at such a frenetic rate. No one feels like they were necessarily shortchanged. It is quite the phenomenon, the Adelaide Test. It is routinely finishing early, but it continues to be the most significant cricketing event in Australia for the year. The fans turn up. It is super well patronised by television viewers. We have organically created an incredible sporting event. And when you add the Adelaide Test to gather round to live golf, I don't know. Melbourne likes to claim itself as the sporting capital of the world, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're not in front of them. We've certainly closed the gap. At least they have the AFL Grand Final, of course. They have the Melbourne Cup, and they are just incredible sporting events. But the Melbourne Cup's lost a bit of sheen with the way that Sydney's been able to really pilfer the racing. So on top of the AFL Grand Final, there's not a heck of a lot going on in Melbourne at the moment. Whereas they got the tennis as well. I'm sure people will argue, but yeah, South Australian sport from in regard to the global attention it garners, is going really well.
Yeah, I mean, if you can drive across to Adelaide, Melbourne or Sydney relatively easily. If you fly in, you can be in the city, or it could be the Adelaide Oval in no time at all. So yes, it is quite unique. And I think 35,000 people turned up to an hour and a half or 2 hours of cricket on Sunday.
Yeah, well, the crowds are pretty amazing. So let's just start with day 1. There was 50,000. Day 2, there was 51,000. That surpassed the record, which comes from the Saturday of the Bodyline Test in 1933, 51,000 there on Saturday. And the game was shot by Sunday and still 35,000 people turned up. So, yeah, it is remarkable. I think the other thing that's remarkable out of all of that, Wallace, is even though we're talking about it being so popular interstate and overseas, but it was a South Australian who really nailed his sails to the mast, if you like, by single-handedly turning that game from something that was exciting and tight into, well, it was the Travis Head show. Let's be honest, 140 from not too many more balls than that. He came in at 3 for 100 when the game was really in the balance. And when he was dismissed, I think Australia's lead was about 130. It's one of the best innings I've seen at Adelaide Oval, and I've seen plenty, Wallace, but it's obviously not the highest score I've seen at Adelaide Oval. With David Hook's 330, David Warner 335 against Pakistan a few years ago. But certainly for meaning and for the effect on a match and a series, that Australia, if they had have lost that test, that was probably going to be the end of a few careers. So what he has done for his teammates and for his country and for the series, as well as just turning himself into, he really is careering towards one of South Australia's most significant athletes. It is incredible. And then, of course, Nathan McSweeney and Alex Carey played their part 100%.
Yep.
And Wallace, it's the first time in 49 years that 3 South Australian cricketers have been a member of an Australian Test team at Adelaide Oval. Got to go back to January 1976. It was Ian Chappell, Ashley Mallett, Gary Cozier. 3 South Australians have played more recently than that. David Hooks, Rodney Hogg, Wayne Phillips all played in a test in the West Indies in 1984. But yeah, it's sort of almost once a generation that you see 3 South Australians in the same team at Adelaide Oval, and all 3 of them contributed. One of them dominated, and it's got Australia back into the series.
Oh, it's great to watch, and the crowd was incredible the minute that Travis went out. They're cheering, and they were cheering the whole way through. He moves the needle, doesn't he?
Yeah. So I spoke to Greg Blewett that night. You were there at that function for that. And we did joke about where the Travis Head statue is going to go. But that's where we're at. And that was iconic. It's not unique when he put the helmet on top of the bat handle and held that up. It looked amazing. That's something that Chris Gale has done once or twice,
Right.
so I seem to recall. However, you think about the Gillespie statue and the Lehman statue that are out in the village green, in that front area there, where you can imagine a statue of Travis Head in about 5 or 10 years' time, and the helmet on top of the bat handle with him both hands in the air. That might be something that whoever is commissioned to put that statue together could have a prototype to work from.
Yeah, very much so. It's really engaging a lot of the young spectators as well.
And just so unaffected by it all. You can see him out there. He's chatting to opposition players. He's laughing. He's joking. He's carrying on. He knows that he is going to make some mistakes out there, and he just plays along with it. I think he got dropped at the start of last year for the Indian series, and I think that was just where he said, well, he was really unfortunate to be dropped as well. He hadn't done that much wrong, and I think he just said, well, what am I going to do here? Am I going to get all white-knuckled about this and get upset? No. When my opportunity arrives, I'm just going to play how I want to play. If that's not good enough, then I'll get dropped. If it's good enough, I'll stay in the team. But I'm just going to be true to myself, and that's the one thing you can 100% say about Travis. I think I might have told you this. I bumped into him. I was coming out of a swimming lesson with my 2-year-old daughter, and he was walking in with his just a couple of days before the test. And so we stopped and chatted. And he is still very much the Travis Head from Gawler, the Travis Head from the Teateree Gully Cricket Club. That's just who he is. And then, of course, we've got this amazing situation now where there's some spite in the series. We have a pantomime villain in Mohammad Siraj who gave Travis the big send-off on the way through. I think those guys will be fine, to be honest. Look, yeah, they'll cop a rap on the knuckles, maybe a bit of a fine at the pay rates for international cricketers these days. I don't think they'll be too worried. And look, I've seen plenty of far worse situations than that from both of them. Mohammad Siraj, regrettable. Travis probably shouldn't have clipped him verbally on the way back out, but yeah, it was pretty minor on the scale, I think. But at least it gives Australian fans something to hang their hat on whenever Mohammad Siraj gets the ball. You can be pretty confident that he's going to be getting a bit of a serve. Let's just hope that it doesn't go over the top, which unfortunately these things can do with Australian crowds from time to time. But it'll be a bit of fun.
As these three are leading the men's representation for South Australia in the national teams, we've got, as you predicted a couple of weeks ago, both the SA men's and women's cricket teams will be doing well.
Nostradamus I am, Wallace, because right now, all three of them, men's 4-day, men's 1-day, women's 1-day competition, all three South Australian teams are top of the table. And they're going to be for a little while. The women are actually back in action on the 18th of December. They play Victoria, I seem to recall. Competition returns after the end of the WBBL on the 14th of December. But isn't that quite incredible? South Australian women, 4 matches played in the WNCL, 4 wins, top of the table. South Australian men now 6 Sheffield Shield games in. They've won 3, they've lost 1, they've drawn 2. And that puts them top of the Sheffield Shield table. And I think we've already discussed they're top of the 1-day table after 5 games. Their season actually started getting bowled out for 160-something by Western Australia. And Western Australia were 4 down with about 25 to win. And they conjured that victory from nowhere. And they've really built some momentum from that. And that, of course, manifested itself in one of the most incredible victories yesterday. I watched most of it, Wallace. I had the day off, and so I just had a few things to do on computer, but I had the cricket running sort of in the background and, varying levels of interest as Tasmania ended up with 400 odd. So it's an amazing 4th innings chase. But, yeah, they needed 4 to win off the last ball, Tasmania. They hit a ball into the outfield, ran 1 pretty comfortably. So 2 or 3 wasn't going to matter because the game was going to finish in a draw. But for some reason, Riley Meredith decided, well, let's try and pinch 1 more run here. Neil Smith at the other end, Lawrence Neil Smith, I think his first name's Lawrence, didn't want to run. And the throw came into the bowler's end from Jake Lehman. Wes Agar broke the stumps. Riley Meredith was halfway down the wicket and stranded, and Australia had pulled off.
South Australia
had pulled off one of the most incredible wins. They win by 2 runs. I think it's the equal second narrowest margin in the history of Sheffield Shield cricket. And we're top. Wallace, I just went through some numbers last night. Let me just tell you a couple of things here. We get the highest aggregate in the competition for the season. That's Henry Hunt with 537. Highest average is Jason Sanger, who made 150 and 50 over the course of this last match in his first game. So he's averaging 106. We've got 7 players who are averaging 35 or better, and 8 players at the 6/10 of the way through the season who've scored individual hundreds. Now, last year, we only had six individual hundreds through the entire season, and McSweeney scored 3 of them, and that was good enough to earn himself a spot in the Australian team. So just start to think about that. The other 3 were Fraser McGurk, who averaged 19 for the year, Henry Hunt, who averaged 25 for the year, and Jake Lehman, I beg your pardon, who averaged 21 for the year. So what we are seeing, the turnaround in the batting, there's some real grit, some real stickability in the batting that we haven't seen for a little while. We've got more team runs than anyone else. And then with the bowling, Liam Scott has been a bit of a revelation. He's got 12 wickets at 21, and Nathan McAndrew, who, he's not really talked about in the upper echelon pushing towards the Australian team like Brendan Doggett and Jordan Buckingham have been mentioned. Of course, Wes Agar's played some white ball cricket for Australia. But what Nathan McAndrew has done for that team, he's got 18 wickets at 24. He's an older guy. So, look, maybe it's gone past him. I don't know. But my word, he has been every bit as important a recruit as Nathan McSweeney has been for South Australia. So, yeah, tremendously exciting. Last year, if you think about it, Nathan McSweeney scored 762 runs, and I reckon there was only 2 other guys who scored over 500 runs for the year. One was Ben Benetti, who's a bowling all-rounder. The other is Harry Nielsen, who's the reserve wicketkeeper. So the batting group in particular has done incredibly well, and here we are now with half a season down, half a season to go in all 3 competitions, and we're pushing for all 3 finals. And I did say at the start of the year, I reckon there's a trophy online for South Australia. Not sure what it is, but yeah, all and the women as well, all 3 very much in the market. So couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, very excited. What are you putting it down to?
It's not coaching, because Jason Gillespie is an excellent coach. I do think sometimes a change of coach just freshens things up. So it is a new look. We're good mates with Tim Nielsen. I'm good mates with Jason Gillespie. I love them both. I think they are excellent cricket people. Oftentimes in an elite sporting environment, you just need to be freed up. You just need a bit of a change of voice. So Tim Nielsen has been there for a long period of time. He's going to do a heck of a lot more very good things in cricket, as is Dizzy. But with Ryan Harris as coach, with Simon Inslee as the high-performance guy, I think that is just a bit of a fresh look, a change in voice, a change in thinking, and it has certainly had an effect. And then I think the other thing as well, Wallace, people will have seen what Nathan McSweeney did last year and where that has found him right in the heart of the Australian cricket team. A lot of other guys will go, well, if I can just take a 20 and turn it into a 50 and turn that into an 80 and turn that into 120, suddenly I become part of the conversation as well. And that really is magnetic for cricketers, just to see that other people having success, they can see firsthand how it's happening, and that can be very reachable within your own grasp as a result. And so McSweeney's done it. Suddenly Henry Hunt is doing it. We're seeing a whole host of South Australian guys who are really having a significant effect. Jason Sanger as well, the latest to peel off 100 for South Australia. I've got this smile on my face. I was putting out some tweets last night, and a few of them are tongue-in-cheek, but you're proud to be a fan of South Australian cricket right now, and that hasn't always been the case. We've sort of been, people talk out the side of their mouth about South Australian cricket, even South Australians. They're a lot of fun at the moment. They're good to watch. They're entertaining, and they're winning from unusual positions. It really is something to warm your heart. If you're enjoying this podcast, I'd encourage you to take a listen to Beyond the Club. It's a project I've been working on with Flinders University. Now I co-host it with Professor Sam Elliott, and we break down all the latest research on how to maximise the experience of junior and club athletes. There's a range of resources, special guests, and cutting-edge info on how you can make your club a safer, happier place for your kids and their club mates. Beyond the Club, wherever you get your podcasts.
Now, during the Test match in Adelaide, you bumped into some people that you want to give a shout out to.
One of the things that I was responsible for during the member test match dining functions was to plug a raffle and a silent auction that's being run by Taverners South Australia. Taverners SA have long been a bit of a conglomerate of cricket supporters who essentially raise funds for those less fortunate who are trying to get into the game of cricket. Good bunch of guys. I know them. I've played a few games for them. They do play games against like the South Australian blind and vision impaired cricket team, against the deaf and hearing impaired cricket team, and they'll play against the intellectually impaired cricket team. But they raise funds for them along the way, and that's what they do with this raffle. It was what I was trying to sell tickets for, and that's all well and good, but the beautiful thing about the week that we had is that a lot of the members and support staff around that team were actually in at the functions that I was in. So we caught up with Amir Latifi, who is the head coach of the blind and vision impaired cricket team. We caught up with Jason Temby and Trevor Smith, who are involved. You might know this better than me, Wallace. Are they involved with the deaf cricket team?
The intellectual disability team.
And we met one of their sons, James, who actually plays in that team. They were wonderful to catch up with. James, brilliant. What a beauty he is. Yeah.
He's a cracker.
So he is just so excited about what he's got ahead of him. And then the people I met on Sunday was Adrian and Amy Rowe. That's spelled R-O-E. Their daughter Adelaide is a 17-year-old blind cricketer. The South Australian team has been a mixed team because they haven't had enough players to get involved, but they're actually going to be able to head with a men's and a women's South Australian blind and vision impaired team. Her mum, Amy, just the most wonderful young woman, desperate to see her daughter get a bit of an opportunity in it. And that's what this Taverners SA raffle was all about. To be able to catch up firsthand with a lot of these people, Wallace, I was really moved by. James in particular was a great chat on Saturday night. They were all involved. It's not for money. I mean, they are doing it on the absolute breadline, trying to put these competitions together. But they're doing it because they want to support people who in every other format of life would be really disadvantaged. They're disadvantaged in their pursuit of their sport as well, but they've got all of these people supporting them. And I just wanted to offer my own encouragement and sense of excitement for what they've got ahead of them, which of course is the National Inclusion Cricket Championships, which is in Queensland in the third week of January. So good luck to all of those South Australian teams who are going to be taking part, the blind and vision impaired, the deaf and hearing impaired, and the intellectually impaired. Good luck to them. Go well, play your hardest and enjoy it.
So, Hookie, the AFLW award season has wrapped up. What news there?
Yeah, not news because it's Tuesday morning now. Ebony Marinoff, the Adelaide Crows, has won her third club best and fairest. That was no real surprise after she took out the AFLW best and fairest for the competition. I just thought it was worth pointing out that Courtney Cramey, good mate of mine, has been made a life member of the Adelaide Football Club. I know her dad, Warwick, who was a bit of a legend of the Glenunga Football Club in his day. Courtney grew up playing football when it wasn't super popular for girls. She was sort of before the time that Australian football for women really exploded. She played footy at Morphettville Park, got herself incredibly fit to be part of that inaugural Crows team, went on to win a couple of premierships. Just a kid from the burbs who got this little window of an opportunity, made it work for her. She's now an assistant coach at the Adelaide Football Club. I think she's involved with Glenunga Footy Club, has coached their women's programs in the past. I think she's like an advisor to some of the men's teams as well. But Courtney Cramey, I was really excited that she was made a life member of the Crows. That is just enormous. And then last night, of course, Matilda Scholes was named best and fairest for the Port Adelaide Football Club. Matilda's an amazing story. Her mother, Peter, is a former Australian netballer. Her dad, David, I played cricket with at Glenelg. Very good wicketkeeper and batter, and an excellent footballer as well. I mean, most people were of the opinion that Matilda would follow her mother into netball, but got this football opportunity and was really instrumental in Port's big drive towards the preliminary final. She played an epic final quarter in that comeback against Hawthorn in the semi-final stage. So, yeah, Matilda Scholes, she's got a little sister, Poppy, who plays netball for Oakdale and seems to be tracking towards Australian netball level. So, yeah, wouldn't that be amazing if you've got these two sisters, one playing elite level footy and another playing elite level netball in a couple of years?
Yeah, brilliant.
From pretty good stock, I tell you. Peter was just a star as a wing defender for Australia, played in a couple of premierships for the Adelaide Thunderbirds, and Scholesy, just good at everything. Both of them good at everything, so it's no surprise. Actually played in a softball game. Peter Squire, she is now, took part in that match, and Peter Yeah, probably never picked up a softball bat in her life, but she slogged a couple out into the outfield. So, yeah, good fun.
Wonderful. Golfers Pearce and Denton both win again.
Fancy that. Caitlin Pearce has won her first tournament as a professional, and she's only been a professional 3 weeks, Wallace, so that's not too bad, is it? She won the New South Wales Regional Opener at Narrabri. And think about this. She was T5 at the event in Wagga, which was another New South Wales regional qualifier the week before the Australian Open. She was T14 in the Australian Open in between. Of course, she was the low amateur and T7 at the Australian Open last year. My goodness. I haven't checked the score yet, and they're probably not out on course yet. But by the time people are listening to this, we are going to know where she is at the regional qualifier in Dubbo. She was T3 heading into it. So she just doesn't play a bad round, Caitlin. She is just so incredibly consistent. So we'll keep an eye out for that. And if we get a chance, we might drop in a little note at the end of the show notes as to where she's finished there. And then Reagan Denton, she's won the Jack Newton Junior Golf Bonneville Girls Championship Trophy. Didn't just win it, mate. She absolutely annihilated the field. She finished at 13 under. The second place finisher was at 1 under. So she's won by 12 strokes. She shot a 7 under 65 in the final round. That's a course record and lowest ever tournament score. So Reagan Denton is still at school. I reckon she's at Henley High from memory. I hope I've got that right. So 16, 17 years of age. I reckon she's around about 250 in the world amateur rankings now. When you consider that she's still been consigned to playing junior events, that is incredible, because the world amateur ranking really revolves around the US college system, which is too young to be participating in. So Caitlin Pearce doing it now, Reagan Denton also doing it now as an amateur. But look, you never want to put the mozzer on these kids, and you've got your fingers crossed for them. But she is tracking towards a professional career, and a professional career of some note, you would argue, because she is just so consistently well above those other girls of a similar age group around her, trying to also make their way in golf. She's a head, a neck, a body length, and a couple of lengths on top of that ahead of the rest of these girls. 12-shot winner in the Bonneville Jack Newton Junior Golf World Championship.
Just brilliant. Yeah, they're both excelling. Now, the Australian lacrosse women are heading off to the inaugural Canadian Women's Indoor League.
They're actually already there, Wallace. They're playing in the Arena Lacrosse League. It is based in the city of Langley, which is a big part of Vancouver in British Columbia. So we are talking about indoor lacrosse, or box lacrosse, which is still just finding its feet here in Australia, but is enormous in Canada. In fact, they had the first ever Women's Box Lacrosse World Cup earlier this year. These two girls both went along, one as a player, one as a member of the support staff, having just missed selection. Their names are Charlotte Winnan. Charlotte has been a very big name at the Woodville Lacrosse Club for a number of years, has won the Bonython Medal in the past. The other is Rachel Boyce. She's from Brighton. She's a really interesting story. She's a Division 2 player for Brighton, doesn't even get a game in their Division 1, but here she is now, having been drafted to, wait for it, the Turtles in the All-West Women's Arena Lacrosse League. There's 6 teams: the Bears, the Bats, the Flying Squirrels, the Turtles, the Hawks, and the Deer. And they've both been drafted to the Turtles. So This competition will go through till about February next year. Freezing cold, as you can imagine, in Canada right now. Most of the time, this sport is actually played, I reckon, in summer, because it's played on ice hockey fields that aren't ice, if you know what I mean. So basically it's a game that was designed to be played on an ice hockey field. It's tough. It's pretty strong. Charlotte has cut her teeth in this sport. She was actually secretly playing in the men's competition because there was no girls competition for many, many years. So she would secretly play in the men's competition when it was reasonably unregulated. Rachel Boyce is an interesting story. I don't know a heck of a lot about her. I've met her a couple of times. I've got to be honest with you, Wallace, I'm a bit terrified of her. She seems like this incredible hard ass, She is just tough. I reckon she's done some kickboxing in the past, a bit of that Muay Thai kickboxing. This is a sport she's found, when I say later in life, she'd still be in her 20s, I'm sure. As I said, I don't know that much about her. It really seems to have found her feet in the indoor form of lacrosse, was very, very close to being selected for Australia at the World Cup, went over anyway, and was given a Spirit Award for the fact that she made such an enormous contribution. Someone's obviously worked out that she knows how to play the game, because, she was drafted in this Arena Lacrosse League. And yeah, who knows? With the boom in lacrosse, an Olympic sport in 2028, I don't think either of these two are sort of in that field. It's a very fast game. These are sort of more tough physical. The Olympic lacrosse is sort of fast, well paced. This is tight enclosed spaces, got to be strong, got to be able to handle yourself with a bit of physical contact, which is where these two really excel. What an experience. These two girls, there was nothing for women in box lacrosse 12 months ago, and now here they are playing in this. It's not even a professional tournament. I mean, they'd be doing it for the love, but the fact that they get the opportunity to get drafted to go over and play in Canada for a couple of months, what a cool thing.
Very cool indeed. In fact, they're experiencing temperatures just checking between -2 and +4.
Yeah, that's right.
That'll be slightly different to what they'd be experiencing here over Christmas.
Rub your hands together.
Yeah. Hey, Hookie, great to chat as always.
Always good fun, my man.
We've run through the finishing tape on another episode of Hooked on Sport. If you've got a local sporting story to share, send us a message via our socials or by email hookedonsportpodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast and let your mates know about us. Tell them to search Hooked on Sport to find Ben Hook and the team. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.